Okay, let's talk about common errors and answers today. If you have a question during the presentation, use the chat window and put your question in the chat window. We'll have a Q&A at the end of the session. Good afternoon or morning, depending on your time zone. My name is Gina Thomas. I'm the training manager here at C&K Systems and your hostess for Training Bytes, a digestible approach to counterpoint training. And I also have a special surprise today. Joining us is my friend and co-worker, Marty Katz. He's a project lead here at C&K Systems. And while I will cover the common errors and answers, if you have something higher level you need to ask, Marty will be on hand to answer your questions.
Hi, folks.
Hi, Marty. I thought you were going to be late. Glad you could join us. So you're working in Counterpoint. Maybe you're posting something, maybe you're creating a transaction, and you go to finalize it, and you get some very scary message. So what does it mean? What do you do? What can you do anything? And when should you call support? So we'll talk about errors and answers, the error messages that you might get, what they mean, what causes the error, and quick fixes to fixing common errors. So here's some of the more common ones that you see. Like at the end of posting sales, you might see processing complete, but 3 transactions had errors or 4 or 5. So that's the message you get. Now keep in mind that if you're posting sales, let's say you did 50 transactions and Counterpoint was unhappy with 3 of them, the other 47 went through, but the 3 transactions that had errors need to be resolved. Another common error is the message, this document cannot be posted. Another user is working on it. Then there's one that says, I can't post this document because the items on the document are either inactive or they're not stocked at the location. Then there's another error that says, CP Services reported an error. This may indicate a service configuration problem. That's a pretty scary message. This usually happens when you're trying to zoom in on a customer item. That's usually when you see that message. So we'll talk about all those and more. So at the end of posting sales, you get this message. And the message tells you there are 3 transactions that had errors, but it doesn't tell you what the problem is. So to find out why the sales failed posting, the best thing to do is to run your point of sale edit list. Now, your point of sale edit list serves 2 functions. If you run the edit list before posting, you'll get a list of all your sales that you've created that haven't been posted. When you run the edit list after posting fails, the edit list will give you a message as to why the transaction was rejected. And in this example, the ticket date is outside the allowable range. If you get a different message and it doesn't, like a duplicate foreign key or something crazy like that, and you don't know how to resolve it, which you wouldn't, having a copy of the edit list attached to your service ticket is very, very helpful for the technician that has assigned your ticket. So if you can attach it, that is super. Now, if you do get that message and it says your calendar's out of date, it's literally because your calendar hasn't been changed. So if you're on a standard fiscal year from January 1st to December 31st, you may remember getting an email blast towards the end of the year saying, don't forget to change your calendar. This is where you come to change it. You go to Setup System Company. On the right-hand side, there's a lookup for current calendar. Go into the lookup and select the new calendar. In this example, 2023. If the calendar is missing, you don't have a 2023 calendar, you can log a support ticket, or if after today's session, I will teach you how to create a calendar as well. Here's one of my favorite. This document cannot be posted. Another user is working on it. Typically, you see this when you try to post an adjustment, a purchase request, a receiving, or a transfer. It literally means that you probably have the window open twice. So for example, you created an inventory adjustment, you saved it, you minimized it. Then you come back a little while later, you create another adjustment, you go to post it, Counterpoint sees that minimized window and returns this message. That is typically what's causing this. The other cause might be another person on the network in Counterpoint in the same module working on the same type of transaction, but that's really highly unlikely. But just in case that happens, there's a way to check. So let's say you know the window is not minimized. If you navigate to System Views, View Resources and Locks, you'll see this window, and this window will tell you who's logged into Counterpoint. Doesn't tell you what they're doing, and it is just a view, so you can't kick people out of Counterpoint. So if that's the case, somebody else is in that same module, they just need to exit that module or close Counterpoint. In the event of the minimized window, the easiest thing to do to get rid of that minimized window, because sometimes when you hover on your taskbar, you can see it, but you can't, bring it up or expand it. So if that happens, just close Counterpoint. Then when you log back into Counterpoint, you'll be able to post. So if you get this message, typically when you're trying to post a purchase request or a receiving or a transfer, it typically means that you have items on the document that have been marked inactive. So on the item master itself, it defaults to an active status. But if somebody marks it to inactive, when you go to post the document, that's the message you'll get. The other part of the message is, well, the item isn't stocked at this location. Maybe you're doing a receiving for East, but the item only lives at your main location. So the item not stocked is typically, that would be a multi-store message. So how do you figure it out? On the document itself, if you want to figure out if the problem is inactive items, just access your column designer, add the column status to the column designer, sort by the status, descending, ascending. It'll group up all your inactive and active. So that's a good way to spot it. If it's not the inactive active problem, you can zoom in on the item to see if it's stocked at the location you're receiving for or purchasing for. To fix the inactive item, just navigate to the item either through the document or save the document, navigate to the item master, and just change the status to active and save. And again, if you want to make sure the item is stocked at that location, you can zoom in on the item number line by pressing the Z. And we'll actually see that in action during the when we get into the software. Sometimes when you're performing a zoom, an item zoom, a customer zoom, or you're trying to clock in or clock out, or process a validated return, this is the message you get. And you'll probably also notice that Counterpoint's kind of sluggish when you get this message. So you can still navigate Counterpoint, you can still create transactions, you can still sell. It's just going to be a little slow and your zooms won't work. If you look at the main menu of Counterpoint and you see a little red square, that's an indicator that your services are not running. So again, your zooms won't work, validated returns won't work, you can't clock in and clock out. But there's a fix. If you have access to it from the Windows Start menu, you go to Start, NCR Counterpoint, Configure Local Services. You typically won't see as much as you see on my screen because I have several installs. You might see one or two. So all you have to do is where you see Start in the Start column is just double click on it. That'll restart your services, and then that little red square at the bottom will turn green. If you do need to log a support ticket, our regular support hours are Monday through Saturday, 8 to 6. You can call us at the toll-free number extension 1, or you can email helpdesk@cksystem.com. We have support hours on Sundays and holidays from 9 to 5. You can call the main number, extension 1. Don't email on Sundays and holidays. You have to call. On Sundays and holidays, we take system down calls only. And so here's what we consider a system down. Can't ring a sale. That's a system down. That's an emergency. Can't process a credit card. That's an emergency. Can't print a receipt. That's an emergency. When you do call or email, be sure you state your name, your company name, your phone number, and a specific description of the problem. Something a little bit better than I need help or my computer's not working. Are you getting an error message? What is it? Do you have a question? What is it? Let us know all of that so we can assign your ticket appropriately. And at the end, when your ticket's complete and the work is finished, you will get a survey. Please fill out the survey. It's really easy. It's a happy, sad face type of survey. And let us know what you think. Okay, with that being said, we'll go ahead and get into the software. And I have somebody that's not on mute. So I'm going to remute everybody. Okay, we should be okay. All right, so we're going to start with point of sale. So if I go to point of sale, I go to tickets, and I go to post. And I'm going to do all drawers. And then use this ticket date. I've noticed some people putting an actual date in this field. We highly recommend you use ticket date, in case posting, you didn't post one night. Let's say you ring sales on Monday and you didn't post. You come in Tuesday, you ring more sales. At the end of the day, Tuesday, you go to post. By using ticket date, your Monday sales will fall into reporting for Monday, and your Tuesday sales will fall into Tuesday. But anyways, I'm going to go ahead and post. And there's the error. But again, it doesn't tell you why or what happened. So I'm going to click OK. And you see it again. I always tell people, if you manually post, watch the posting because you're looking for these messages. So now we got a message, posting failed, but why? So if I go to the ticket edit list, and you don't have to do anything fancy, just click on preview. So you can see there's my error reference, and you can see why. Tickets outside of the allowable date range. And it even says, go update your current calendar settings. Next, I'm going to do a receiving. Now remember, my calendar's still out of date. And I'll just receive against this purchase order here. You can see I have lines here. I'm just going to go ahead and post. And so what happens when you post, you get this pop-up in the lower right-hand corner. And it's even telling you this transaction is outside the allowable range. And if you scroll over, it tells you, go update your calendar. So let's do that. So I'm just going to say no to that. So to update your calendar, it's setup, system, company, here's the current calendar, here's the lookup, go into the lookup and select the correct calendar and then save. Now, what happens if you go in there and there is no calendar for 2023? Or in this example, I don't have one for 2024. Here's how you add a new calendar. It's very easy. Click on Add. On this window here, even though there's a lookup, you're going to free type on this line. So I want to free type my calendar for 2024. I'm just going to type 2024, press my Enter or Tab key, put in the first day of the year, which is actually 2024. So I'm going to backspace over that 3. Put in the last day of the year. And then over on the right where it says last calendar year, again, don't use the lookup, just retype 2023 because that was the last year. And then the next year is going to be 2025. So you just retype 2025. And then you want to set the default dates. When you set default dates, you're going to use the calendar dropdown. In this example, because it's 2024, let's get to January, I'm going to browse to 2024. And so what Counterpoint wants here is the last day of the first week. That's typically a Saturday. So in this example, it would be the 6th. And then when I click OK, Counterpoint sets my seasons, my months, my weeks. I'm all done, ready to go, and save. Okay, but I'm going to change this back to 2023 and save. No, I do not want to cancel my edits. I want to save. So here's something else that happens in real life. Somebody goes into purchasing, got a purchase request enter to create a new purchasing document. And we'll auto assign a number, select a vendor. Then I'm going to go to lines and I'm going to select my item. Now this one's been marked inactive, so I get warned right away. Can't add an inactive item to a transaction, receiving, purchasing, adjustments, transfers. So I'm going to fix that. It's easy fix. So I'm just going to go to inventory items. And I'm going to find my item. And now I'm going to make it active. So I'm going to go back to purchasing. And assign my number. Choose my vendor. Select my item. So Counterpoint's happy because right now this is an active item. But this is what also could happen. So you create the purchasing document, the item's active at that point. You save the purchasing document because you're not done. You're going to come back later and work on it, which is perfectly acceptable. But in the meantime, someone else goes to inventory items, and perhaps they're looking at that item, and they say, you know, I don't want anyone buying this item anymore. So I'm going to set it to inactive, and then save your changes. So now the buyer comes back, and they want to work on that purchase request they saved. So if we go to purchase request enter, there's black arrows here, so I know there's something here that's not posted. Just going to use my right facing arrow to find it. If you suspect there's more than one, just go to your table view and then you can see a list. This is one I was actually working on. Okay, so I go to lines. There's my item. Now I don't know someone's marked it inactive. So I go to post. And there's my error. And again, it doesn't tell me what the problem is. It just says there's an error. I'm not going to let you post. But when I click OK, then Counterpoint will display the error up here in red. It's pretty in your face. And it also displays it down at the bottom of the screen, also in red. Now let's say it's a high capacity PO. You have hundreds and hundreds of items and you don't know which ones are active or inactive. It might be just one, it might be more than one. So here's how you figure it out. Right click somewhere where there's data, go to your column designer, just click on anything under the hidden columns column, click on anything, type in S as in status, it'll jump you down to that part of the list. Then you have to scroll a little. When you find what you're looking for, you can double click on it. That'll send it over to visible columns, or you can highlight it and add, click OK. Then you can right click and sort ascending or descending to group up the like statuses. So now we know that this item has been marked inactive and we need to fix it. You don't have to leave this module to fix it. You can actually go into your item lookup, go to Edit, use the status dropdown and make it active, and then save. Now you're going to have to let the purchasing document refresh. So I'm going to exit from here. I'm going to go back into Purchase Request Enter, and it's still going to have that error message, but that's okay. So I'm going to find the purchasing document, and this is the one here. Looks like I have another one as well. So now I'm just going to come here, look at this. Yeah, it looks all fine. I know it's an active item, and post. And there you go. Now, the other part of that message was maybe it's not stocked at that location. Here's what that means. I'm going to show you this through receiving. So I'm going to go into receivings and enter. And I'm just going to auto assign this. I'm going to put a vendor. But I'm a multi-store operation. And today I'm receiving from my East location. So when I go to lines, go ahead and put in my item. I put in a quantity. And I'm going to post. Oh, success. Here, I'm gonna make it so that item will not post. So I'm just gonna go to inventory items. Let me find another one. Okay, here's one. If I zoom in on this item, you can see in my zoom here under inventory locations. When I built this item, I told Counterpoint, I want to sell this item at all of my locations. But now I'm going to remove one. So I'm just going to come down here, down to inventory. And I'm just going to find my East. And I'm just going to delete the location record. That doesn't delete the item. It's just deleting the bucket that holds quantities. Now, when I zoom in on the item, see how East is no longer here? All right, so now I'm going to create a receiving. So again, I'm just going to select a vendor. It's going to be from my East store. I'm going to go to lines. I'm going to select the item, which was a polo. Is it the satin polo? I don't know. Let's look. Let's zoom in on it. On that one. That's okay. I can kill that one too. So I'm just going to go ahead and edit. I'm going to come down here to inventory and remove that location just so you can see the error. Okay, zoom back in, make sure the location is gone. It is. Select the item. This item's inactive, but that's not the problem. So I'm going to fix that. Go back to the item. Oh, here's the one that wasn't stocked. Okay, so that's good. Okay, I'm just going to go ahead and receive one of these. And okay. And post. That is not right. I'm selecting the wrong item. Let's go back to inventory. It helps if I remember the item I selected. This one. 1004. Everyone remember that for me. Okay, that one's not at my East. It was the polyester one. So I'm going to go back to receiving for the third time because the third time's a charm. Auto assign again. and put in my vendor, put in my East location, go to lines, select my item. There's the message. You don't sell this at the East, so therefore you cannot receive this for the East. So I'm going to fix it. Oh, you know what? I've decided I do want to sell this at my East store. Again, you can go into your item lookup, find the item, and it was the polo. Too many zeros. The polyester polo. I'm going to have to leave the receiving because it's not stocked at that location. So now I'm going to go back to inventory items. Find my item. There it is. If I zoom in on the item, and you can zoom through the receiving, but you can see I can't sell it at my East. So now I need to come down here to the lower left-hand corner to where it says inventory. And then all I have to do is come up here to create inventory. Now, if you go to inventory and you're in your table view like this, you won't have that create inventory button. So in order to see that button, you just have to click on the table view again. And now you have the button. So I'm going to click on create inventory. I want it to live everywhere. So I'm going to say, okay, there you go. And now when I zoom in on the item, now it's stocked at the East. Okay, so now when I go back to receiving, and we'll auto assign. Choose my vendor, choose my location, go to lines. Go ahead and put in a quantity received. This is a gridded item, by the way. If you don't have gridded items, this might not look familiar to you. I'm going to click OK. And notice I'm not getting any messages. Counterpoint's really happy. So I'm going to click on post and then yes. And it's all happy. Next, I'm going to do an inventory adjustment. So I'm going to go to inventory adjustments. I'm going to go to inventory adjustment center. I'm going to put an item here to adjust. I like to put an adjustment reason code. If you go into the lookup, you can select from a list, for reporting purposes. I'm going to do a downward adjustment. And now I'm going to save because a customer needs my help. And instead of exiting from this window, I'm just going to minimize it. So now I'm done helping my customer. I come back, I go to inventory adjustment center. I start my inventory adjustment again because I forgot I minimized my window. Go ahead and put a reason. And now what happens when I go to post? That's the message you get. And earlier I had mentioned this literally means most of the time you have the window open twice. So if I come down to my taskbar, I can see the windows open, but sometimes when you see this, it won't unminimize. So then you could just exit Counterpoint and go back in. So if I just exit, I can't get my window to unminimize and I'm really frustrated, just close out of Counterpoint. Then when you go, and that's just the simple, easy answer. So then when you go back in, I'm going to go back to Inventory Adjustment Center. And if I want to, I've got black arrows here. So, black arrows means there's something here. It's not posted. So maybe I have more than one thing that's not posted. I can just go to my table view. I can see I have 2 unposted. I can't post from the table view, so I have to click back on the table view. And now I can come down here and post. I like to post as you go along. Or if you have a bunch of adjustments and you just want to post them all together, you could just use this button. Now, there is a way to avoid, and Marty pointed this out in the earlier session. Thank you, Marty. If you have that type of user that keeps saying, I can't post because another user is working on the batch, there's actually a user preference you can turn off that will prevent people from minimizing windows. Well, it'll let them minimize, but it won't let them create another document. So I'm just going to come up here to the upper right. So there's my user. And again, this is user specific. It's not global. So there's my user. I'm going to go to the user interface tab and I'm going to uncheck allow multiple form instances. And then I'm going to save. So here's what happens when you do that. If I go to Inventory Adjustment Center, I'm going to do a downward adjustment. I'm just going to save and I'm going to minimize. Okay. Now when I come back to Inventory Adjustment Center, Counterpoint automatically brings up the minimized window. So pretty easy solution. If you have that type of user, just change their preference again. Come up here to User Preferences, find the user, go to User Interface, and uncheck Allow Multiple Form Instances. Now, what if it's not that? It's not that there's two windows open. Well, then that means somebody else is in Counterpoint in the adjustment module working on an adjustment at the same time, but you don't know who because you have 10 workstations. So if you go to System, Views, View Resources and Locks, you can see people that are logged in, but Counterpoint doesn't say what they're doing, where they're logged in, and again, it's just a view, so we can't kick this person out of Counterpoint from this window. You have to walk over to their desk or pick up a phone. Hey, can you just exit that module for me or close Counterpoint? Either one will work. So then there's this thing that runs in the background called services. And if you look to my lower right-hand corner, see this green square? It means my services are running. So if I go to inventory and I go to items or I go to customers and customers and I find an item or I find a customer and I zoom in, the zoom works because the services are working. What if the services aren't working? So I'm just going to go to another install. And so here I'm going to go to items or customers, either one. I'm going to find an item. I'm going to zoom in on the item. And there you go. So again, you're not out of business. I mean, you can still create transactions, you can still sell. You just can't run your Zooms. You can't clock in and clock out. So if I go in here to clock in, and my error message is somewhere. Let's try that again. Also notice the red square in the lower right-hand corner. And you'll also get that same message if you try to do a validated return and your services aren't running. This is what I like about my job. Hey, watch this. Tab. There we go. It's about time. So the services aren't running. If you use offline ticket entry and your services are not running, your tickets on the offline workstation are not syncing with the server. Normally, when your services are running, even though you're in offline mode, your workstation is constantly talking to the server. So I'm going to come down here to my system tray. See this little caret is? And here is my services right here. And I'm just going to double click on it. And you can see everything's NANA, service not running, disconnected. So If you are running offline ticket entry and you have access to this, if you come back to this little caret, go to the services, right click, go to configure local services, then you can just click on the two that say start in the start column. Let's say you're not using offline ticket entry and your services aren't running. Go to your start menu, go to NCR Counterpoint, go to configure local services, and then I'm just going to double click on these. And it takes a moment for them to like move over to the stop column. It might take a little bit longer than that in your world. So I'm just going to click on close. And then this red square will turn into a green square. Not immediately, I mean, give it a moment, but it will turn green. Meanwhile, while we're waiting on that to turn green, here's another common error. Somebody comes in the morning and they're ready to ring a sale, but they need to activate their drawer first. Oh, look, it turned green. See that? Didn't take that long. It's green, services are running. So anyways, I go to point of sale, I go to drawers, and I come here to drawer activate. And I put in my credentials and activate drawer 1, and I click on activate. This message means that somebody has already activated that drawer. So all you have to do is just log into point of sale and start ringing sales. If you're an offline ticket entry and you get this message, it may mean the same thing. Someone's already activated the drawer, just go ahead and ring a sale. Or somebody activated the drawer in the full-blown install and the server and workstation just haven't communicated yet. So you might have to wait a few minutes. Okay, so here's another thing that you run into. I'm going to have to go to my printers first, though, in order to simulate this error. So in your printers and scanners, there's a switch down here that says, let Windows manage my default printer. And so typically if you install a label driver and this switch is enabled, it'll make your label printer the default printer. But I'm going to manually do that. So I'm just going to uncheck that. I'm just going to manage. I'm going to make this my default. We'll pretend Windows made it the default. So now when I go to print things in Counterpoint, like a report, if I go to inventory, I go to reports, I'll just do an items report, and I'll just preview. That's the message I get. The page size was not large enough to format the contents. There's another one that you get as well. It's kind of the same message, but it's worded different. I'm just going to run a different report. This is it right here. This is the more common one. Page header plus page footer is too large for the page. It'd be nice if the message said, this is using your default printer, which is the label printer, but it doesn't. But to fix it, just come down to your Windows Start menu, just type printers. You have to spell it correctly. Click on printers and scanners. Scroll down, make sure this is unchecked. And then highlight your report printer, manage, set as default. And when I close out of here, and I go to run a report, I have to put in the location ID. And there's my report. Okay, so that's, just common run-of-the-mill errors that you can fix. And if you're not comfortable fixing them, you're not comfortable building a calendar, just log a support ticket. Okay, so hopefully after this session, you know about these common errors, what they mean, what causes the common errors, and how to fix them on your own if you feel comfortable. If not, log a support ticket. We always appreciate your feedback, your topic suggestions. On Friday, when you get the link to the video, there will be a survey attached. It's easy and fast to fill out, happy face, sad face. You can make comments, you can remain anonymous, or if you want to go directly to our website, you don't want to wait until Friday, www.cksystem.com/Training Bytes survey. If you want custom training tailored to your business, your software, your data, give me a call at the main number, extension 3, or email training@cksystem.com. Happy to discuss your training needs with you. Next month, February the 1st, we're going to talk about toolbars, zooms, and the text dictionary, how to modify your toolbars, how to modify the zooms, and how to change those warning messages. Some of those nonsensical ones that don't have a lot of intuitive meaning. I'll show you how to change the messages. Okay, and that being said, I will take questions. Okay, let's go back into Teams and check the chat. Okay, so when trying to adjust an item to 0, this is a good one, Kim. I get a message that there are unposted POS documents. Where do I go to fix that? Such a great question. So I'm going to simulate that right now. I'm just going to go to point of sale. And it could be maybe you've got maybe an unposted receiving or an unposted purchasing or unposted inventory adjustment. Let's do that. Let's do an inventory adjustment. Oh, wrong place. So I'll just do TL2. And save. So now when I go to delete this item, and remember when you do delete items, your quantities have to be 0. So I'm going to find this one. Now, obviously the quantities on this aren't 0, but they need to be 0, but I'll just go ahead and try and delete it anyways. So when I try to delete it, the message I get is, well, it's not 0. You have an unposted inventory adjustment. There's an open transfer. There's an unposted point of sale document. It's in your gift registry if you have that option, and it has a non-zero GL value. So to figure out, sometimes it'll just say you have unposted transactions and it doesn't give you all that detail. But if you come down here to the lower left-hand corner and press your enter key, you're looking for where the item is committed. Okay, so, remember I have 4 locations. So I could come down here and just flip through all my locations to find out where the problem is. Or I can zoom in on it. And so I can see the problem is at my main right here because I have 4 committed. And when you have something committed, it's either because it's on an unposted document or you've got it on a customer order. So now I'm going to close out of here, but we don't know that from looking at the Zoom. So I'm going to go down to inventory. Here's my main location. That's where I have the problem. Press my enter key, go to view commitments. And then I can see it's on an unposted adjustment. 2 of them, as a matter of fact. It's on a point of sale document that's not posted, and 2 transfer outs that are not posted. Here's something else that happens in real life. I'm going to find something with 0. Here we go. The VMI putter. This one always stumps technicians, including myself. So let's say somebody rings up a sale with that putter, right? So I'm going to go here, here. If you ever get this message, sometimes you're configured this way, sometimes you're not. Auto activate means open the drawer with no money, if you ever get that. Always takes that last little bar the longest time to load. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and put in that item. Now the customer left their wallet in the car and they're going to come back. So you place the ticket on hold. And I don't know if everyone knows this, but when you place a ticket on hold, it stays on hold forever. When you post your tickets at night, your hold tickets don't go away. They're still there. So in this scenario, the customer left my wallet in my car. I'll be back. They never came back. We never deleted the hold. But maybe a couple days or weeks later, we're looking at our items. And we say, you know what? I haven't sold this item in 10 years. I don't care about the reporting because normally we tell you not to delete items, just to disable them. But if you do have an item that's really obsolete, don't care about the reporting, you want to delete it, go ahead. But when you come up here to the toolbar, that's the message you get. Item has unposted point of sale documents. So at this point, you probably go run your edit list, right? So you come here and you're like, God, what's not posted? So if I go to tickets and I go to my edit list, oh, I don't think I posted my last sales. Let me go post real. Let me see. Let's go run the edit list. Yep. So I'll just go ahead and post. Remember, use ticket date. Always the best thing to use. So now I tried to delete that item and I got the message there's unposted sales. And let's just go look at that again. It'll be the same message. Okay, so now I click on the X. See how it still says unposted sales? Okay, so now this is where you go run your edit list to say, gosh, really, there's unposted sales? And then you run the edit list. And you find your edit list is blank. So that means the item is probably on hold at point of sale, or it might be on a quote. So you'll want to check your holds and your quotes. Okay, good question. Okay. If I have an item committed for a long time and don't see anything in the work center, what am I supposed to do? Good question. That's where you would go to that little that's where you would go. Let's go back to the items here. So you're right. If it's a point of sale document, it's not going to be in your work center. Your work center shows you purchase orders in unposted purchase request, unposted transfers, unposted receivings, unposted inventory adjustments. So it won't show you unposted sales. So if you have something that says I'm tied to a sale document, again, you want to zoom in on it. You want to focus on the committed column to figure out where the problem is if you have more than one store. Once you figure that out, you come down to inventory, call up the location that's having the problem, and go to view commitments. Unfortunately, view commitments doesn't show holds. Okay, so very good question.
So Gina, there is one other thing is that sometimes that that quantity committed gets out of whack with Counterpoint.
Oh, true.
So there is a utility that will recalculate that.
Yeah,
And
and
so
I'll show that utility because that's really a good point. Here's the other thing you might notice sometimes, just in your inventory, where you're looking at a zoom and it shows that there's quantities on a PO and you don't have any on a PO, or your quantity available and your quantity on hand don't match. Oh, I've got one here. Maybe not. But anyways, you notice your quantity on hand, quantity available don't match. There aren't any unposted documents. So run this utility called recalc committed. So if you go to inventory and you go to utilities and called recalc item quantities, thinking of a different software, just click on recalc item quantities. It's totally tolerant. You can do it during the day. If you're multi-site, this has to be done at the hub. If you know what hub means, you know what I'm talking about. If you don't know what hub means, you're not multi-site. You can preview it to see if Counterpoint's going to return anything. and it'll show you a report, and then you can come here and recalculate. What the recalculate does is it forces Counterpoint to re-examine its relationship to posted documents. So you might say, well, how does Counterpoint lose that relationship? It could be an improper shutdown of the computer, or maybe a hiccup on the network, or an interruption somewhere on the network. So it doesn't hurt to run it. You can run it once a week, once a month, or just when you notice things don't look right, go ahead and run that. Thanks for that, Marty. Okay, when printing sale tags on a large sale campaign, sometimes an error will pop up basically stating that a barcode is too long or wrong in some way. Is there a way to bypass that error and continue printing without having to start over from the beginning? And also, is there a way to pinpoint which barcode is the issue? That's a good question. I don't know the answer to that one. Marty, do you have any ideas?
Unfortunately, Gina, I do not know a way around that except you know, is there an order on the label print
You mean
screen?
like print and order by?
Yeah.
Let's go look.
Um,
I myself have never seen an error message referencing a barcode that's
close
too
that.
long.
Oh, I have.
Ah, okay.
Go straight to item labels.
Got it. Yeah, well, I take direction.
And click OK there. Click on the edit the label job
Oh, I see where you're going. Yeah.
and edit there. And I can't remember if there's an order by. No, there's a label. Oh, yeah, there is.
Yeah, there
So
is.
it orders by item number first.
It does.
Okay. So the last one that's successfully printed, it's the one that comes after that. So it does give you an oh, actually, is it loc ID and then label item number?
Yep, it's loc ID and then label item number.
So it will give you the bad item number. It's the one that comes after the last item number. So it's not a great way to find it, but it's a way to find it. But Gina, sometimes you'll have like a letter and an all new and a barcode that only allows numeric, a new or something like that, or it's too long. It's a 10-digit field and we have 12 digits, or it's a 12-digit field and you got 15 in the barcode, because sometimes barcode formats are that way. And so it won't fit it into the field. And then it'll give you an error message and you're just sort of left there scratching your head.
Right.
Did that help, Russ? And Jennifer is correct.
Yeah, and so Heather had mentioned, exactly. We do this often. We recalculate item quantities. And then Jennifer mentions, if you're an AR customer and your AR balances seem a little weird, there's also a utility to recalculate AR balances. So if you go to customers and you go to utilities, recalc customer balances. And again, it's just Counterpoint re-examining AR charges related to the AR customer.
And the other value that recalculates is if you've ever gone into process an order and it says customer has order on files, would you like to process it now? And they don't have an order on file, this will fix that as well. It's
Oh,
just
I
one of the,
didn't know that, even if it's not an AR customer.
even if it's not an AR customer, that is
Ah,
correct.
good to
It'll
know.
recalculate the number of outstanding orders flagged on the customer record.
Yeah, and look here, I've got some people here that Counterpoint's saying, I should recalculate this for you.
Oh, look,
And
and actually preview that.
yeah, I will.
Okay. Number of layaways. So that's the same thing as the orders, number of orders.
Oh, yeah. Here, right
So
here.
it's the number, it's showing a layaway on Kenneth Davis, and they don't have one.
So if I come here to recalc, Again, totally tolerant. If you're multi-site, it has to be done at the hub. This is the one and only time you get this report. So if you want to save it, go ahead and print it off or save it electronically. Then you get warned, and basically the warning saying you're not going to be able to print the report after this. Okay, so it updated 3 customers. And so now when I preview, there's nothing here. Did not know that, Marty. I love learning new things at my age. Okay. Russ said that helped, in case you missed that. If more than one person is working an adjustment, can I post only my adjustments? Can it be posted by user? I don't want to post my colleague's adjustment. Is this possible? The short answer is yes, it is possible. It's with something called a user batch, but there's a gotcha with user batches. If you have a user batch and you create an adjustment, only you can manage that adjustment and only you can post it. So let's say you go to lunch and you win the lottery and you never come back because you won the lottery. No one is going to see that unposted adjustment unless they look in the work center. And not a lot of people look in the work center. So then you might notice your inventory is off for some things, and it's because of unposted transactions in a user batch. What I recommend so that you don't post your colleagues' adjustments, whether it's an adjustment, a purchasing document, a receiving document, I always say post as you go along. So if you're in an inventory adjustment or purchasing or receiving, and you click on this post button here, you're only posting the document that you're looking at. But if you come over here, you're posting everything that's not posted in inventory adjustments, including your colleagues' unfinished work. Okay, so that was a good question. Thank you. Any other questions? Well, as always, thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it. Don't forget to join me on February 1st. Go sign up for the next Training Bytes session and look out for your recording on Friday. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.